Oh yeah, we're back. Just me, but Divya is gonna join, and we're gonna have a conversation about our lives. Just waiting for Div. Oh, Reeve, I see you. I see you out there, quarantine effects. Hey, Rivos. And now I have to. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna get Divya in here. And then we're gonna have a good time. Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Yay!
All right.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh my gosh.
Trying to adjust things right now.
I know. I feel like now that I'm sitting inside, my coffee's good. Thank you for asking. It really is, but I also just have such little left, so that's not the best.
Oh man, when we just went to New York recently to celebrate our birthdays in Paris on my birthday because our days apart. She bought me an almond milk latte or something.
No. Oat milk.
Oat milk. And she looked at me and could definitely see the perplexity of my face, but I had never had one, and it was good. It was not, I mean, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and thankfully Brienne drank it all and loved it, but it was really the thought that counts, because
You were so funny and so sweet though, because you were like, oh, like, yeah, it's good. And I could sense that you did not think it was good. And I was like, do you want something else? And you're like, no, it's fine.
Yeah, I liked it. I think oat milk, I think you have, okay, so there's a lot going on with coffee situations, right? Like, I need to stop drinking half and half or whole milk because it's not good for me. But like, I genuinely haven't found something else that, like, I've tried macadamia nut milk. I've tried almond milk.
Did you like that macadamia nut milk?
No, I hated it.
We're starting with pressing questions, guys.
I steamed it and it was not good.
I think we need to get you the right one, because
yeah, I'll try oat milk again, but I think I needed more sugar. I actually, if you guys want to know a real big secret, I'll admit it. I put 9 or 10 raw sugar packets in my coffee. Like, is that a lot? Like, that's a lot, right? 9.
Yeah, I think like 2's a lot.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Or no, 3 is a lot. I would say 2 is like average.
But you don't even taste it. Why put it in?
I don't think you can taste it.
No, I mean, I can only taste it at that 8 or 9 level.
So I actually do just straight up, like, I don't add anything. I just do black coffee. Well, I do pour overs, or I do Americanos, as you know. I do iced Americanos, and they're my fave.
I just can't. Yeah, I think, I mean, I cross my fingers. I hope I don't become a diabetic. I left definitely just too many sugar packets. I need to like the taste of coffee, but I hate the taste of fancy coffee or cold brew.
That's like Reeve.
Really?
I think, not to like blow up his spot. I think that he likes
regular basic coffee.
Yeah, like
yeah, okay.
Which I do too. They're different to me. Like, they're like
1,000%. Reeve, if he's on still, I don't know if he is, but we were at Universal Studios one time, and we were downstairs near Jurassic Park, and there's a Starbucks. This is a really weird story. And Reeve made a coffee at Starbucks, like just a hot coffee. He put the perfect amount of half and half, and he put the perfect amount of raw sugar, and it was the best coffee I have ever had. I still think about it. It's the weirdest memory I have of your brother, but he made the best cup of coffee. And I was like, every time I try to make it Reeve style. I call it Reeve style when I'm at Starbucks, because he makes really good coffee.
Yeah, he has a very special technique, I will say. But, you know, pressing questions. We only talk about the most important things. No, we really do. But to be honest, I feel like we could all use a little bit less of seriousness and more about coffee. At least for my own mental state. But
I do sleepy time tea.
Oh yeah.
because I don't want to continue to take melatonin sometimes or something that like helps me sleep. So I try sleepy time tea.
That's a great, I feel like that sort of brings me to our
give me the
many
tea.
topics of conversation, but I feel like sleepy time. I feel like well, there's so much that's happened in the past 2 months, but we kind of put a pause on this stuff, and then the last time that we went live, it miraculously, or not so miraculously, deleted itself. So there's a lot.
I think it was for the best. There are parts where I think it was for the best, but we did have a good conversation. But I think since it didn't save, we have to go back in time a little and talk about May and June.
Yeah, really, June was like, I don't know about any of you guys, but man, June just kind of kicked us in the butt and went, oh, all the things that all your comforts, which is, that's not a bad thing. But in the time, the last time that Divya and I chatted, we talked about, my grandma passed away. She is the best person like in the universe. And she passed away in June. And obviously shook us to the core. Divya and I talked about it last time, but within that period, our live got deleted, which is fine. Doesn't matter. But Divya actually came to the funeral, which meant so much. And that kind of kick-started our like nonstop go, or at least you were going already traveling, but then I started traveling after that, and I got zonked out. And so I feel like it'd be good to just talk about that and talk about like how it's so easy to lose ourselves. And at least for me, I feel like it's easy to lose myself when I travel because you don't have your your normal day-to-day routine, and I at least start to slowly like accommodate everyone else besides myself, and I don't get enough sleep and I don't get enough anything, and that's a whole topic. But I know, Divya, we were chatting about that in New York because you obviously know me better than most anyone besides Greg, besides my husband. And you were just like, you're not okay. Like I knew, I could tell that you could tell that I was like, I have reached capacity of being able to be around people. And I'm not only an introvert. I mean, I'm definitely an ambivert, but you know, Div.
Yeah, I think you definitely
and
like.
You felt.
I mean, the lead up to your grandma's passing as well was also, I think, even thinking about that before her actually passing away was also like a lot of like, when someone is passing away or something is so uncertain, I feel like we're all heightened, right? Like even when you don't know you're heightened, I feel like we are heightened because we're like waiting for it essentially, or waiting for the green light or the red, like we're just like kind of waiting for what is. It's such a gray area and such a limbo, and it really like kickstarts that energy draining, right? So like you had a full tank before your grandma started declining a lot, essentially, because being in the pandemic, I think we all got to recharge a little bit and like find our balance and then not see a lot of people. And I think it like definitely like either we deplete faster now, which is totally fine as well, or your tank just went the way it did. But yeah, by New York and by July, I think, there were times where I just looked at you and I was like, she can't even make a decision. And like that you just like want to help. There's no place for it. And just, I think that everyone needs to know, like, even if you have a best friend or someone you like understand or know very well, sometimes there's nothing you can do. Like there was absolutely nothing I could do. There wasn't really anything anyone can do because Paris, you like really needed to just refuel and like take a break from everyone and everything and social media and people and like anyone asking you for anything. And I think for good reason. I don't think that you just were depleted because nothing happened. I think you are literally one of the strongest people I know that says yes a lot to your family, because that's your family. And I think we either have chosen family out there, or you have your, you know, your blood family, or whatever you want to call family. Actually, I had a whole discussion about family last night at dinner with some people, but whoever you think your family is, you want to be there for them, and you don't want to say no, and you want to like be that rock. And when you are a rock in your family, I feel like you get drained easier. And some people have like a longer threshold, and some people are built to last longer. And what's good about you is that I think you caught yourself in New York too. I think there was a part of you that was like, no, I'm done. And I'm sayonara. Bye.
Well, I want to encourage you a little bit, just because I feel like, knowing you for as long as I have, I've seen the stuff that you've gone through recently, but even more so just throughout your life, where I'm like, dang, Div, like, you're really strong. And like, you don't even have to say, like, I think part of it is like, you might go along with stuff, but I feel like you have like a much more easygoing personality now than anyone does when they're younger, of course. Yeah. But I think you're so easygoing, but you also know how to do like what you want to do. And I think that really impresses me, because I don't. I think that's the part where like it really hit a precipice in just in the trip. It wasn't anything to do with New York. I love New York more than anything. But I was like, oh, I'm not listening to myself anymore. And no one's telling me necessarily what to do, or they are. No one's forcing me to do anything. But it hits a point where you're like, I don't even know what I want anymore. I feel like I don't have the strength to say what I need, because I don't even know what I need. And I think that's like a bigger issue. But I think for you, I was just so impressed by you in New York, because I was like, wow, you're like doing all these things and you're just like going for it. And also, like, of course things were got in the way, and like it was like raining like crazy, and you just went with the flow. And I was just so proud of you for which I think that's equally as important for like friendships, to be like, hey, I want to encourage you, and be like, you were amazing, and also you also needed a break as well. Like you needed, I could sense that you were like, I'm good to go home, but it wasn't like a breaking point. It was like and maybe for me, I think obviously like adding mourning on top of that, like a really specific event, like that does just add to, and I think it's something to be aware of for us as humans. If we're more pause, because I have a time limit on my Instagram, 15 minutes a day. I usually ignore it, but not today.
That was the best thing that just
I'm sorry. But I just think it's important for us as humans. Like, we're all wired so differently. Yeah. And like life hits us with different things, and with COVID, like, add that on top of everything, at least for me, Divya, as you know, like, gosh, like, it's just, it really like messes with my nervous system. Like, I'm just like, whoa, I'm so on high alert. Mm-hmm. And it's exhausting. So I just think having a space for that, and also having a space to be like, hey, I need to recharge, and I'll be okay. Yeah. But also like people like you, who I'm just impressed by the way that you handled yourself in New York, handled yourself just like kind of advocating for yourself in some small ways, but also going with the flow. I was just like, cheers to you.
Well, thank you, because I actually think I did pretty well in New York for what the circumstances were. I think me and my partner, Brienne, we had spoken about it after, and I had just had therapy. And by the way, everyone should go to therapy. And there's so many things. We don't even have any sponsors, but I heard about this thing like One Talk or something Talk, Smart Talk. Like, there's a lot of like celebrities advocating for it, but like I was like, dude, if that's like, it's like cheap, like inexpensive therapy. And I was like, this is the
Yes.
best.
I almost did it, but I did, but yeah, gosh, what is that called?
I know. I don't know if any of you know, but like it's called like anyway, it's really inexpensive therapy, and it's not just like a phone number that you call. You actually get set up with a specific therapist, and I thought that was wonderful. But anyway, I spoke to my therapist yesterday, and I had like a really enlightening session, and we hadn't talked since I think I had been back from New York.
Yeah.
But New York was hard for me because there was something that happened that specifically really shifted me, and I have tried to learn the tools in therapy to like not let it spiral. And I think we are all capable of spiraling. Like it's our brain and our mind and our thoughts hijacking something, and all of a sudden rolling with that. And like I am so guilty of letting my brain and my thoughts, and really false thoughts, like not facts, I let them spiral. And I had to, in New York, fight every second to make sure I was present as much as I could be with this situation that happened. And I remember being like, I do not look back on New York and not think of it fondly, because I think of it as such a good trip. And I was like, it was because I like had to, by the way, present day, I'm so drained because I had gone to Dallas the weekend after. And so I was like, I told Brianna, I was like, I think I've hit my precipice finally. I think I've hit like that exhaustion. But when you have to work harder to get the outcome you want, to enjoy the present, it's going to exhaust you more. Your battery is literally going to be drained a lot quicker. And I think I'd rather my battery be drained quicker with being present in the moments and taking the time to like have mindfulness and be present than let that run my life, which it could have easily. After like the month I had with specific situations, I was like, wow, I'm very happy that I just all of a sudden was like, nope, this isn't going to ruin this. Like I'm going to enjoy New York City. And y'all, I enjoyed New York City.
Oh my gosh, you came prepared today.
I was like, I belong in that city. I love that city. I don't know like who out there is. That city filled me up. I think I came home filled up. I was like, New York is the best.
I know. It really is. And you were thriving. You were thriving.
I don't know, like, if you ever feel this, maybe you do because of just being in the industry and being around it and all these things. But like, I don't know if I've necessarily been in the place you have necessarily in the industry, but it's been around. I haven't specifically. I've always been in tech or like, customer service. But I definitely loved New York because I felt like, and I think I told you one night at dinner, but I was like, I felt like I was nobody, and it felt like a really good nobody. It didn't feel like a nobody that didn't like exist and didn't want to be there or wasn't loved. It was more of like a nobody of like, I am literally looked at as every other person, and every other person is just trying to get to where they need to be. And I was like, I think that if I was to be famous one day, not that I want that, but if I was to be famous one day for something, writing a book, whatever the case may be, I would love to live in New York, because I don't think anyone would recognize me because they're not caring about me. They're caring about the subways, the taxis, getting to point A to point B, having to walk all those freaking streets. Like I was like, oh, this is phenomenal. Yeah, I loved it. It was
so good. I'm so happy that you had your first experience there, because like it really is, it's so infectious being there. It's so exciting. There's always something to look at. I mean, it's like any like proper big city, and you're just like, what? But better. Like there's only a few, I think, probably that have that same energy, and even that, like New York is just, it's phenomenal. So it's so funny too, because as a person that like might tend towards, like, I think I'm learning a lot in therapy too, like we've been talking obviously, but like a lot of things that like you would think an anxious person would rev up someone's anxiety, it doesn't for me. Like there's something about, I love being in cities. I don't know. So that's why I'm trying to dig deeper and be like, oh, what is the source of this anxiety? And what's the source of like, how do I manage it in a better way? But all that being said, when I'm in a city, I'm like, go, 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 do anything, go anywhere. Like, it's just, it's so fun. And I think it's interesting to find those things. I feel like if you do tend to anxiety, to find those things that like you thrive in. and you're like, oh, I really love this, and
Oh yeah.
it doesn't make me anxious. It makes me feel alive. But you know, I mean, I know that of course everyone has some anxiety, but I know, Divya, you have less than I do, at least externally.
Yeah.
Like,
I actually didn't know what anxiety was, and there was no term for it when we were younger.
yeah.
So I just thought, like, for instance, my dad has a lot of anxiety, and I didn't know what the name of it was when I was younger. So I just thought he had bad road rage, or he always triple checked the stove, or made sure the door was locked 3 times, or like was tightly wound in certain situations. And I like was like, that's just who he is, I guess. That's his characteristic. That's something about him. But present day, you know, like what, 10 years later from the time that I didn't know this word, because I think depression has been talked about a lot more openly than anxiety is. And maybe we were just too young or I wasn't listening, but I definitely did not know the term actually until I met Brianne, my partner, because she does have anxiety and there was a name to it. And once I saw the name, I equated it to things in my life and to my dad. And I was like, wow, like that's so crazy that there is a name, and everyone's anxiety looks so different. Like there is not, and it's crazy because it becomes a physical thing. Like last night I had anxiety about a situation, and I remember explaining, because I think I'm pretty good at explaining exactly how I'm feeling. And I was like, it's physical and it feels like it's choking me and it feels really tight here and I don't like how I feel. And I was like, wow, this is such a, like a body hijack. It's so unfortunate that people have to feel this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's also very, like, I think, you know, adding, because even when you're saying, like, you know, checking the stove or checking the door, I think like a lot of it, like either it maybe like starts as something and then it kind of just trickles off and goes, and you know, there's all these different types of anxiety. I think also, like you were saying, there's also like OCD comes into play, like when your body is so overstimulated, or like when you have, what is the term I keep saying? It's like almost like your nervous system. Basically, your nervous system is under attack, and those things, it trickles off and like kind of branches form and lead to something else. And like I've seen that in my own life. Like I was not an anxious child. Like I wasn't. Like I had worries, and I had worries that, like, I think, you know, we all do. I had some worries that no one should have as a kid, or at least be aware of. So, you know, those things start and then they just become something else. But for me, a lot of it, I think, is like my nervous system really early on was pretty triggered, I guess. And then that's caused a lot of stomach problems for me. Like, it's like all of those sort of things just like affect one another. It's a domino effect. And and then I don't know, I'm so glad that you're such an advocate for therapy, Divya. You were even telling me to go long before I did again, and it's made you more you. I think that's the best part too. It's like you step into yourself and you're like, I'm comfortable here, and like I'm okay being what I am, and also working on things that I'm unhappy with. Like, I just think that you're amazing. Oh, and I see Becca, our
I know, Becca.
Yeah, it's so true. Because and also when you're a kid, how do you process that stuff? You don't have language to process it. And even if you go to a therapist, you want to please your parents and you want them to be, you know, happy with you, and they also are just humans. So it's like, that's true as well. It's not like, oh, well, they should know. Because I mean, I don't know. And I'm 34, just turned 34, Div. Woo!
Weird birthday.
Oh, also, Div knows. Oh, wait, you weren't there. But I got carded the day before my 34th birthday. I was like, excuse me? But I had a mask on, so kind of makes sense.
I haven't been carded in so long, and I don't know what's going on, but it's
No, you look like you are 17.
I know.
So
Zane always says like 12, and I'm like, you haven't seen a 12-year-old.
You're also like, don't say 12. I'm not like.
No, but I think, you know, therapy has been so wild. And also I went to therapy as a kid, and you're like, you hit the nail when you said you want to please your parents, because I was put in therapy really young because I was adopted. My parents were white. I was brown. I also think they knew I was a lesbian and I was part of the LGBTQ community, and I didn't want to come out because I didn't want to disappoint them. And there was so many intertwining things, and I think they were trying to get me to, like, I mean, I went to therapy very young. I mean, like, I remember, I think I've always gone to therapy on and off throughout my life because they were like, we need to figure out why you have so much anger, or why you're lashing out, or why you haven't come out to us. And I remember I never wanted to tell a therapist when I was a kid I was gay because I didn't want to disappoint my parents. And I think I did tell one once, and they ended up telling my mom and dad. And I was like, where's the trust? And I didn't know what HIPAA was or any sort of confidentiality, because when you're young, I was like, I wasn't going to hurt myself. I was telling you that I was coming out, but I wanted to tell you. It was very weird. And I was like, this is so uncomfortable. And I remember not liking therapy for a really long time because I was like, oh, this was traumatic. I was like, you broke my trust. Like, I thought I was going to tell you that, like, I was a lesbian and you were going to work through it with me, because I was like, I think I was younger than when I actually came out to all my friends and family, because I think that was around 15, but I was younger when I went to therapy, and I was like, what? And I remember my mom was like, oh, so you said this? And I was like, no way did this just happen. And I remember feeling really, just like, I was like, absolutely not. I don't want to talk to anybody anymore. I think I shut down. And then as I got older, I came out, and when I came out, it seemed like it didn't shock a lot of people, but it definitely shocked some people, like my mom. I think that was a process. But I think what I've learned from my parents and growing up as well, especially when we grew up, is to not really have expectations for anybody, to let people be who they want to be. But also, the good thing about being an adult is getting to pick and choose who you want in your circle in your life. You know what I mean? Like, I think, like, people don't realize, like, I think me and you are both on this beautiful journey of boundaries. And I think boundaries are, like, super important and critical to have healthy relationships. Like, I don't think without boundaries, people can actually have healthy relationships. Like, romantically, friendship wise, family wise, like, everyone needs that arm's length, you know? And I feel like you are learning them. And I think that that's great, because I think
process.
Isn't it all though? Like, I think we're all learning them, but I think what I'm learning is, like, when I say no, I'm starting not to feel bad about saying no. And I think we all have that guilt of saying no to somebody, right? Like, I can't come to this, or I can't come see you, or I can't let you stay, or I can't help you move. Like, I can't do these things. And I think it's just, like, protecting our time and our headspace and our energy, right? Like, not to say that we don't want to, but that person doesn't know how depleted our battery is. It's not for me to share that. My battery is at 1/4, and I have nothing left to give, and I have to give it to my partner or my animals or myself. I shouldn't have to tell you that. I should just be able to say, no, I'm sorry, and that be it, right?
Yeah. Ooh.
But I think we all feel we have to over-explain our boundary to people. And I feel like that's so, we need to break that stigma, because I don't want to have to tell you the why behind why I'm saying no. I should just be able to say no, and you respect that. And, like, you be like, okay, thanks so much. You know, whatever bye.
Oh, Div, that is so deeply profound. And I mean, obviously, as you know, like, that is not my strength at all. But I will say that the interesting thing, and I wonder if anybody else out there relates to this, like, I feel like I have learned, because I'm such a people pleaser and I don't want people to be mad at me. I want to look like I'm, you know, willing and able to do anything at any time. Even though I don't even think I come across like that. Maybe I do, I'm not sure. But I want to appear that way. And so I've started, like, what's so sad about it is, instead of just saying no and letting my no be no, I'll like, something will be true, but it'll be like, oh, I can't do it because I over-explain everything, like every detail of why I can't do something. And sometimes it's like, I'm thinking of excuses, like, before I even get asked a question. Like, I'm like, okay, how can I get out of it? How can I do that? And I think so much of that is from my own past, like, trauma of like, oh, the person reacted in this way when I said no. And so if I say no, whoever it is, if it's a teacher, if it's just a random person in your life, in your childhood that was like, that yelled at you when you did something wrong,
Yeah.
or, you know, something that like they didn't like. Yeah, I just feel like now that I'm an adult, a grown adult, I'm like, dang, I'm still doing that. Like, I'm still like, how can I make it better? How can I? And then you become the version of yourself that you like,
Yep.
just like your worst nightmare, like your shadow self, where you're like, I'm so small, I have nothing left to give. And like, no one wants that version of you. People want you to be authentically yourself and full and strong, but then like they overstep their boundaries. It's just like, it's such a vicious cycle. But I don't know, I think like you're saying, it's like the most important thing is to be able to say no, and how scary it is, but how liberating it would be. Yeah, and that's probably my biggest struggle, is like saying no, and like not needing to like explain why. Just being like, no, I don't know, it's so
It's kind of like the I'm sorry thing, right? So like I've been seeing a lot of people repost those like steps or ways to like switch your language around. And it was a really, I think it either was Brienne that posted it or somebody recently. It was like, instead of saying I'm sorry, say thank you for understanding. And I thought that was like such a good way of doing it. And there was like 4 or 5 of these things. And I remember being like, I need to test this out. I'm going to test this out at work first, because I work in customer service and I talk to people all day. So I was like, if I am late to something or I'm doing something, I want to use this, because I was like, that's the only way to retrain your brain, right? To continuously try to do something and like hope that it works and like see the responses. And I feel like that's what we all have to do in our lives, of saying no, like work on saying no, and maybe giving a little bit of a reason why, and then seeing their reaction and kind of like dissecting it and maybe working through it in therapy. And then maybe next time saying no to a different person in a different situation and being like, oh, well, you know, I'm so sorry, but just this isn't a good time. And then like slowly pulling back how much you're having to explain. And thank you for understanding. No, but like, no, go for it. But I was just like thinking, and I was like, we all have to learn to, like, I want to learn to do that, because I want to stop saying yes to shit I don't want to do.
Yeah. Like, and how simple, like, shouldn't that be like 100% accepted? Because then the other point is, the other person on the other end of that, or the other side of it, they're asking for their needs, and they're not afraid, and they're not afraid to tell you why you're wrong. So it's like, well, why can't you just say, and that, what I was going to say, sorry to interrupt you, like, I like love everything you're saying. I'm just like, let me I think that part of it is like, man, like, why am I not able to even just say what I want? Like, and I think in work, I'm able to be like, okay, but actually that's not true. If I'm creating, if I'm songwriting, I'm pretty strengthened in that I can be like, oh, I don't really like that. No, let's do it this way. Or I'll always voice my opinions unless I'm like in a weird headspace, and then maybe I won't, but it's rare. But in other areas of my life, I'm like, why can't I just say what I want? Like, just start there. Like, oh, I don't want to do that, and I want to do this instead. But I'm too afraid, like, when I'm in a really unhealthy place, I'm too afraid to even say what I want to do, which I think is like kind of what, or I don't even know what I want to do at that point. Because I'm like, I'm navigating all these people, and I'm like, what is this person? I don't want to be this person.
I think I saw it. I mean, it played out on the day of your birthday.
Exactly. On my birthday, I was like, just a complete, I think there were so many factors of why that was happening, but also, it was pretty, and then it sucks too, because then you're disappointed in yourself. Like, it's all of those layers of like, why did I do that? That makes no sense. It's so illogical. But also, you're so kind of like, let me just do whatever, and then everyone will be happy. But it's like, no, then like I'm not happy.
Not happy.
And I've just wasted, like, I guess I also put so much of myself, which Divya, I know that you know, and you do the same thing, like pressure on, not to like speak for you, but
No,
in a
yeah,
way, like you put a lot on your plate, and like you want people to be happy and you want them to feel loved, and you want, and then, but then you have nothing left for yourself. So it's
yeah,
just
it's like, at what expense are we doing this? Like, at
Yeah.
what expense? And it's ours. It's always our expense. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, because I bet a lot of people are good people. A lot of people out there drain themselves for others as well. And I feel like that's a common trait that we can all connect on, because I feel like most humans aren't bad. Most humans are pretty damn good and trying to do the best they can. And I think, you know, what I've learned in therapy is like everything's like a step process type of thing. And so, like, for instance, for me and you, well, okay, so the difference between me and you, and I'm curious to ask this about you, I have never had a problem sending back a food order or telling them they did something wrong, because I don't like cheese. I know. Explode internet. I don't like cheese. And if it's on something, I lose my mind. Not my mind in like the waitress or the waiter or the server, but I'm like, oh man, I thought I said no cheese. Was it on the menu? And sometimes I get a little anxious, but most of the time, actually, I think my parents just raised me to be like, just say what you want. Like, if that's not something you want, tell them. And I think also my mom being a diabetic, she always had to like have things really specific. And so I think she just taught me, maybe innately, or maybe I was just a really extroverted, like vocal person at Bob's Big Boys or something like that, kind of being like, I don't want this. And maybe I might have said it not kindly, but I hope I did. But I'm curious, do you even feel you could say when you don't like something?
I think it depends on, I know I do love my cheese. That's my favorite. That's our difference, Div. It depends on my state of mind, honestly.
Okay.
Like if I'm really like not taking care of myself emotionally, and I'm doing things that I shouldn't be doing and overbooking myself, and which happens a lot, then I will be in like a sort of state where I don't even feel like I can do that. But I'm in a place now where, like, well, first of all, you know that I can't have gluten.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely going to ask, hey, just making sure, like, because sometimes menus, like, you know, say that something's gluten-free, but if it looks a certain way, I usually know, like, oh, this is not gluten-free, and I'll definitely send it back because I don't want to get sick.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, if my coffee order is not what I order, it's weird. I think that I used to be less that way. But this is like a huge like stepping point to me, like to just be able to, that's a huge thing. And that's a great question, Divya, because that is like kind of shows you like where you are in the spectrum of speaking up for yourself, or like just like normal things, like, man, just say what you want. And I think like it's not hurting anybody to say, hey, I don't, and it shouldn't. And obviously, if you say it with love, of course, it's probably the chef made this food, and you know the waiter is running back and forth. And of course, knowing that, like, it's not like a simple thing, but it is important to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I thought that this, or I mean, there I go. I would be overly like apologetic when it comes to it. That shows you something.
That was such a great example, by the way, because you were like already thinking about being in this scenario, and I was like, oh, she's there right now.
I'm there. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't think that I ordered that, but maybe I did. But that's also a family thing as well. Like, my brothers and I are all, and we're raised like to be like super, super polite, which I think is wonderful.
Yeah.
But I do think it did kind of, in some ways, make me not prepared for the cruel, cruel world. I'm kidding. But I mean, there are major cruel parts of the world, and obviously we're seeing a lot of them in a lot more ways outwardly. I mean, it's always been there, but I think we're that much more aware of them because of this past year and a half, which I think is a wonderful thing, but also is incredibly just deeply saddening, and you know, that's a whole other topic that obviously, of course, we should touch on.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah, and I think we all want to be more gentle with one another right now, right? Because like I have, you know, so many people died this year, and so many people had their own experience, and people lost jobs, and people like have struggled, and the system's broken in certain areas, and you're just like, oh, how do we? And all we can do, like I think about what I can do on a daily basis, and it's just kind of maybe smile at someone or be kind and like and just say hello. Like it's those little things, because like I can't really save the world, and like I'm one person, but I definitely think we all have a duty to be kinder, right? Like, and I think we all have it in us to be kinder. And I think, you know, with that being said, I think it all starts with being kinder to ourselves. And I don't think we all are. I think we've all been so hard on ourselves this past year because we've all had to adjust. And, you know, people broke up because it tested their relationships, and people got together and realized that they were really successful in this, you know, environment. And people got to get to know themselves more. And I think I was just telling Brienne actually, how many people thought their life and trajectory was going to go one way pre-COVID, and how many people want to change what they thought they wanted to do after COVID. And I think that is a question I am so curious about, where people are at, because I am like, you wanted to be like a professional baseball player in 2019 at the end of it, and now a year and a half later you were like, actually I really want to be a therapist, I'm going back to school. Like I'm just so unbelievably excited to hear about those stories, because I'm so curious about what, and I guess I should ask you, where were you in 2019 and where are you in 2021?
Dang, you're smart, Div. That is such a good question. I feel like it's getting like this past month or past 2 months have kind of shook me.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's kind of a specific situation. It's situational though, so I don't think that it's like as appropriate for me to like even judge myself or be like, whoa. But obviously in 2019, I was go, traveling everywhere, songwriting constantly, in rooms, put me in any room, I'll be there, la la la. And then what happened for me, obviously for everyone, the whole world shut down. So it was like, obviously can't travel, can't be in rooms with people because it's dangerous and it can spread the virus. People can get really sick. No one knew, etc. So,
and you had and there's like something, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in those rooms with creativity, you feed off of their energy. You feed off of their everything. So
100 million%. And I definitely did really adapt early to Zoom, which I think we talked about before, which is wonderful. Yeah. But I will say what's happening now is especially with the Delta variant, I was really comfortable. I'm vaccinated, and I think I think personally that it is the safest option that you have. So I'm an advocate for getting vaccinated. And like 1 million trillion bajillion%. And that's a whole other topic. But, you know, even being vaccinated now with the Delta variant, it's extremely unknown. It's unknown. Like, I think, and I'm not a scientist, but I think that people are getting it from unvaccinated people more than anything. But that being said, yes, Dawn. That being said, what up? I think that I'm now in 2021, I'm like, okay, now I have to go back in rooms, and I feel unsafe being back in rooms with people because I don't know them a lot of the times yet. And then when I meet them, obviously I'm obsessed with them and I want to be in rooms, but that's been the toughest part for me currently. I'm like, oh, how do I readjust to this not knowing, not feeling safe, because also you can't I'm actually wearing a mask in rooms, and other people, you know, are or aren't, but I think and we'll see what happens and how everything kind of transpires. But I think for me, it's been kind of the back and forth of like, man, like, should Greg and I just go and move to the forest? Like, I think I always have had that kind of thought. But in 2021, I'm just like, how? And because also I think for me, yeah, it's stifling creatively if you're feeling unsafe.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, that doesn't really answer the question. I think it's really like, I was like, go, 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 go. Even in COVID, I was like writing every single day. And I still for the most part am, but it's just translating like half Zoom, half in person, and in persons just feel kind of, I don't know. So yeah, that makes me think like, what do I want? And then, with Greg, in his position, like just with traveling a little bit more, it feels, it's so different because we were in 2019, like it was kind of like the world was our oyster. Like everyone, like, yeah, you can do anything, and you still can, but there are a lot more restrictions now, and a lot more kind of like, what is the point? Because there's so many more things that are important than these things, but also like you need to have a job, and you need to want to be successful. And I think that's always kind of in the forefront of my mind. But what about you? Do you feel like you, 2019 to now, like wanted to do anything different?
I feel like I think I've grown a lot mentally. I think I did not thrive in COVID. I think I was that 1% of people that, like, I thrive off of people and human connection and people being around me, and like it fills me up. And being at home every day, I felt like I was going crazy. But then I finally got out of it, and by crazy I mean like I was just like, every day felt the same, and it felt like Groundhog's Day, and I was just like, man, we had no idea July of 2020 that we were going to ever end this. Like there was just nothing we knew. We were just getting, at that point, I feel like, COVID tests to see if you had it. Like it was just crazy to me, and I was like, oh man. But I feel like 2019, I think my world turned upside down during COVID too, because my family just got rocked. And so I think now in 2021, I think I don't take my job so seriously, in the sense of like it being the end all be all. I think I'm trying to find what makes me happy. And, I think what I'm learning is like, I kind of just want to see the world while it's still here, while it's still green. And so I think for me, I want to work to make money to be able to go do things I want to do. I don't know if I like actually will ever say like I have a career. Like I don't know if that will ever happen. But side note, had a great therapy session, as I told everyone in you earlier. But I thought about like potentially writing a book, but not necessarily about my life, but about experiences. It was just really wild. I don't even know if I've even like thought of yet to say something like that. But I was like, oh man, I know I'm a good writer. I'm a creative writer. I'm not like a structured writer. Like no one at our high school would tell me like, Divya, you were a great structured writer. I was like, no, I wasn't. Thesis writing, what is that? Like, get out of here. But I think to go circle back around, I think that we all should just be gentler with each other and figure out what we want to do rather than what we have to do. I feel like we all like, I love hearing that people started somewhere and like they're completely in the opposite way now, and they're like, oh, I want to do this, and I'm like, do it. Like, do what makes you happy at this point, because I think this past year, like, I don't know, I just feel like this is so morbid, but like tomorrow's not promised, and like that's crazy because like you would think it was, but with the last year, I feel like we have to appreciate the here and now. So I feel like all I want to do is find what makes me happy. And I feel like at 34, like I was so hard on myself when I was younger. I was like, man, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I wish my parents pushed me to do something. I wish so badly they were like, Divya, you're playing the piano for the rest of your life. And I was like, okay. But they never did. And with not pushing me, it made me be a very indecisive person. And in that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I've just kind of like rolled with what life has given me. But I actually feel like there's no pressure to do it. I feel like there's a stigma on everything. When you should have kids, when you should get married, when you should buy a house, and the trajectory that all happens in. And I'm like, F that. Like, we should all, at this point, this past year has taught us, like, nothing should be in any sort of order. You should be able to have kids whenever you want, and you should be able to get married or just have a partner life ship like Goldie Hawn does, because she's killing it. So, like, I don't know. I just feel like we're so hard on ourselves.
Yes. Oh, dude, that is so, it's so good. And it like, I think you're hitting so many important parts of the human experience. Like, and there's so many, I think what's hard for me too, like coming from the background I came from, like coming from, you know, not the Episcopal background that I come from, but like the evangelical Christian background that I come from. Like, there's a lot of things that are deeply harmful coming from that world. And I'm not saying that everything is wrong, but I think, you know, you got to look at it and be like, wait a second, maybe these practices and these things are actually harming us more than they're helping us. Who's to say, like there's got to be a different way to approach these things. And I know belief systems are like incredibly important, and for everyone, for you know, people that are Jewish, people that are Muslim, people that are any sort of belief system. It's like, yeah, it's not to take away from that. It's just to say we're always attacking each other, always attacking ourselves, judging ourselves. Because when you think about it, it's like, you know, in just my own personal experience, it's like, man, like how many times I was so like hard on myself for something that is a human instinct. Like, I don't know, to be like angry. Like, that's obviously a kind of a silly example, but I think it's a perfect example. Like, man, so judgmental, that as if I don't deserve anything. And when that's your headspace, like, it's really hard to navigate. And I just think the more conversations that we can have, the more that we can, like, it doesn't mean that your belief system changes entirely. It just that it changes in order to include people more, you know, and to see from their perspective, and instead of just rushing to like, I'm right, you're wrong. Like, that's where I think we are right now in the world, where it's like, no, you're wrong and I'm right. And I like, it's like, no, I think that there's so much gray area that, like, when we talk like that, we already are pushing someone away. But if you're like, hey, I believe this thing, and obviously that's such a tangent, but I just think, you know, another time we should expand on that, because I think even for you and for me, as far as like you talking about your therapist earlier and how you spoke to your therapist, and I just think that's such an important conversation for us to have too, with like how you knew when you were a kid, like, oh, I'm viewing, you know, the same sex or a different sex differently maybe than one other person, and what does that mean, and like and how stigmatized that is.
At the time as well. I would love, I think, one of our next lives we should talk about coming out. I think because I think it's crazy, because I think you hit the nail on the head with where we're at in the world with it being so black and white, but like there's so many gray areas. And I think, like, to circle back to our new lives and Instagram, but like everyone does deserve a seat. And I think that we need to realize that. And I think, you know, everyone who watches this and everyone in the world, which I could cry over, I love the Olympics. I think the Olympics. I know you're not thinking I was going to say that.
I love you. Like,
I could cry thinking about the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, because it is when the entire world comes together in one place. And it's such I can literally tear up. I think it's so beautiful that the world is together right now in Tokyo, doing sports, doing things they love, even during this like uncertain time. But like when you watch the opening ceremonies and you watch all these countries that you, one, don't know how to pronounce, two, don't know existed, three, that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this country has this many people in their population. But like, to see those people, you were like, all of you are together in this arena together. Why are we so separated right now? Like, you are all, literally the world's together. the world, I think that's what I love about the Olympics, and I think everyone should watch the Olympics, or at least the opening ceremonies, because you get to see every walk of life in the world kind of just like shake hands and like bow to each other and respect one another. And I think like I think that we're in such a beautiful time as well in the world, because I think like we had to postpone the Olympics for one year, and like I think we're in a time where like I don't know, like how cool is it that the world is in one place right now? Like at least one person from every country in the world is together right now. That's pretty crazy. Like
I love it.
yeah, I just think that we all just need to be like
Imagine
that. You know?
Imagine like a world in which, and wouldn't that be incredible if we lived in a world where that was the norm? Not to say that like, I know that there's so many layers to that and why that's complicated and why, but I love that you're finding the joy, and you're finding, you're looking at something that is like really powerful. Like that's like probably the most powerful example of what we want or what we're searching for in life: to be accepted, to be to fit in, to be different, but to be seen. And I think that is the entire point of why we started this. And I'm just excited now that we're in it, we'll be back next Saturday, won't we, Div?
You got it. I can't wait.
Are you able next Saturday?
Yeah,
Should we have
let's
a
do it.
conversation later? Okay, but we're gonna be back and talking more. So thank you guys for.
Thank you.
Any final words, Div?
I mean, go USA.
I love it. You're the best. I learned something from you every day.
Me too. We're the best.
Yes, we're the best.
We're the best.
You are the best, and love you, and
love you
all.
Love you
Talk
guys.
to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.